Hello and welcome to another deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
And a big thank you for watching Westferry Times. Today, we're diving into something really quite urgent,
Mm-hmm.
an issue that touches communities right across the UK, knife crime. Our aim today is to really understand what's happening.
Yeah.
We'll be looking at various sources, government stats, youth organization reports, and of course, our guests' own extensive work to figure out what's driving this and what genuine solutions might look like.
That's the goal.
And with us is Dr. Marcus Reed. He's a leading criminologist, a specialist in youth violence who's worked on the ground with young people, with grassroots groups, and also with government bodies. Thanks for being here.
It's good to be here. It's a vital conversation.
So let's get straight to it. Knife crime in the UK right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just how serious is it? What's the picture?
It's deeply serious. And it's been a growing problem, over the last decade or so. We've seen this steady, troubling rise in knife offenses. Now, it is particularly concentrated in, well, the major urban centers, you think, London, Birmingham, Manchester.
Right, the usual suspects in the headlines.
Exactly. But it's really crucial. People understand this isn't just a big city problem anymore. The numbers are quite stark.
How stark?
Well, in 2023, England and Wales recorded over 50,000 crimes involving a knife.
50,000, wow.
And what's really concerning, I think, is that a very significant portion of both victims and perpetrators are young, under 25.
That's shocking. And as you said, it's easy to hear London or Manchester and think it's happening over there, but you're saying that's not the whole story.
Not at all. The media often focuses on London, naturally. But our sources, the data, it all shows knife crime is happening in towns and smaller cities, too. It genuinely is a national issue now with very real local impacts pretty much everywhere.
Okay, so a national problem impacting communities everywhere. Let's try and unpack why. What are the main factors driving this, based on the research?
Well, it's complicated. There's no single simple answer, unfortunately. It's more like a complex web of interconnected issues.
Such as?
Things like persistent poverty, social exclusion.
Huh.
These create environments where opportunities just feel really limited for lots of young people.
Okay.
Then you've got the impact of, well, significant cuts to youth services over the years. Those cuts removed vital support networks, safe spaces.
Right. The youth clubs closing down, things like that.
Precisely. And add to that maybe strained family structures, lack of positive pathways. It all contributes.
And something that comes up a lot in reports is school exclusions. How does that fit into this picture?
Ah, yes. School exclusions can be a really critical turning point for some young people.
How so?
Well, when a young person is removed from mainstream school, especially if there isn't good support or a proper alternative lined up, they become much more vulnerable.
Vulnerable to what?
To negative influences, drifting into unstructured time, maybe falling into crime. It's a loss of structure, a loss of positive identity, right at a crucial age.
So if you're young facing these issues, maybe feeling like there isn't much of a positive future ahead.
Exactly. For some, in that situation, gangs or street groups might seem to offer something. Identity, perhaps belonging, even a twisted sense of protection. And in those environments, carrying a knife, well, it can tragically start to be seen as necessary. A tool for survival, almost. A way to feel safe when the world feels dangerous and doesn't seem to offer much else.
You've worked directly with young people caught up in this. What do they say? What's their perspective?
What you hear again and again is this deep feeling of, well, insecurity, feeling unsafe.
Genuinely scared.
Yes. Many will tell you they feel unsafe in their own neighborhoods. They often say they carry a knife not because they want to cause harm, but for self-defense, to feel protected. It's often a flawed logic, of course, but the fear is real.
And what about the things they see around them? Social media, for instance. Does that play a role?
Oh, definitely. That's a really powerful factor that the research points to. Social media. It plays a significant role, sometimes negatively. We see violence sometimes being, well, almost glamorized online, or certainly amplified. These images, these narratives, they can be very influential, especially for younger people who are maybe a bit lost, looking for status or identity.
So it really comes down to this awful cycle of fear. Young people carrying knives because they're afraid of other people carrying knives.
That's a huge part of it, yes. It creates this really dangerous self-perpetuating problem. The perception that knives are out there makes more young people feel they need one, even if they've no intention of using it aggressively. It's fear-driven.
Let's dig into that social media aspect a bit more. You often hear drill music, for example, mentioned in connection with violence escalating. What's the reality there, according to the sources?
Yeah, the link between social media, youth culture, violence,
Yeah.
it's complex. It's definitely true that arguments starting online can spill over very quickly into real-world violence. Drill music often gets singled out.
Hmm.
Now, the music itself isn't inherently the problem, but, well, it can become a platform for threats, for online feuds, for posturing that then fuels actual conflict offline. It's like an online stage for offline tensions.
And it's broader than just music videos, isn't it? The whole online environment.
Absolutely. Platforms like TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat,
Hmm.
they can act like accelerants. Conflicts get broadcast, amplified, reaching huge audiences almost instantly.
Yeah.
Videos of fights go viral, potentially inciting retaliation or copycat behavior.
Yeah.
And the anonymity, or perceived anonymity, online can embolden people to say and do things, make threats they might not face to face.
Which leads to a pretty critical question. Are the social media companies doing enough about this?
Well, based on the evidence we've seen and talking to people working in this field, the general feeling is no, not nearly enough.
Hmm.
These companies, they have a significant responsibility, I think, to be more proactive. That means getting much better at monitoring and removing harmful content stuff that clearly incites violence or glorifies weapons.
Right.
And also maybe playing a role in supporting youth outreach, educational campaigns that try to counter those negative online influences. They need to be part of the solution.
Let's widen the lens a bit.
Correct.
What's the impact of all this on the families, on the communities where knife crime is prevalent?
It's devastating, utterly devastating. When knife crime takes hold in an area, it creates this pervasive atmosphere of fear.
I can only imagine.
Parents worry constantly. Are their kids safe going to school, playing outside? The trauma goes way beyond the person directly harmed.
Yeah.
Siblings, friends, neighbors, the whole community feel it. There's grief, anxiety, a loss of trust, a sense of insecurity that ripples outwards.
And it seems, as we touched on, that certain areas are hit harder than others.
Tragically, yes. The communities often suffering the most from knife crime are the very same communities already dealing with high levels of, deprivation, marginalization, fewer resources.
That's a double burden.
Exactly. It creates this vicious cycle. The underlying social and economic problems can contribute to crime, and then the crime itself further harms and destabilizes these already vulnerable communities. Breaking that cycle is key.
So, what are the authorities doing? What are the official responses we're seeing to try and tackle this?
Well, there are various strategies being used. Government has invested in things like violence reduction units or VRUs.
What are those?
They're essentially multi-agency partnerships, police, health, local authorities, community groups trying to tackle violence by looking at its root causes, more of a public health approach.
Okay.
Then you have police operations like Operations Sector, which involves things like targeted patrols, weapons sweeps, amnesty bins, and of course the use of stop and search powers. Some schools have introduced knife arches too.
But you suggested earlier that just focusing on enforcement, things like stop and search, isn't enough on its own?
No, it really isn't. Enforcement absolutely has a role, disrupting activity, getting weapons off the street. But it's not a sustainable long-term fix by itself. We have to address those underlying drivers we talked about. That means a much bigger focus on early intervention, supporting young people before they get drawn into carrying knives. That's where lasting change comes from.
Stop and search is always controversial, though, isn't it? What's the consensus on its effectiveness versus the problems it causes?
It is. It's a really debated tactic. Look, used properly, based on good intelligence, it can be effective in taking weapons off the streets in specific situations.
Right.
But the major concern is its disproportionate use, particularly impacting Black and other minority ethnic communities far more often.
Yeah, that's well documented.
And that erodes trust massively. It damages the relationship between police and communities, making cooperation on crime much harder. For it to be legitimate, it has to be intelligence-led, respectful, transparent, and constantly scrutinized to make sure it's fair. It's a very difficult balance.
So if enforcement isn't the silver bullet, what do real effective solutions look like? Where should the focus be?
The focus really needs to shift much more towards prevention and support, comprehensive support.
What does that mean in practice?
It means serious, sustained investment in youth services, good quality youth clubs, sports programs, arts, safe spaces after school, things that give young people positive things to do, positive relationships.
Right.
Mentorship programs are incredibly valuable, connecting young people with positive adult role models. and crucially, much better access to mental health support. Many young people involved have experienced trauma
Right.
and alternative education for those struggling in mainstream schools so they don't just fall through the cracks. Ultimately, it's about giving young people a sense of hope, purpose, and real pathways to a positive future.
You mentioned organizations doing important work. Are there any specific examples people could look into?
Oh, absolutely. There are many fantastic groups out there. People might know. Street doctors, they train young people in emergency first aid, but also educate them about violence, empowering them.
That sounds valuable.
Then there's Red Thread. They work inside hospital A&E departments. When a young person comes in after being stabbed or assaulted, Red Thread workers are there to engage with them, offer support, try to help them find a way out of that cycle. It's a critical intervention point.
Right, at the moment of crisis.
Exactly. And the Princess Trust does great work providing education, training, employment opportunities for disadvantaged young people. These groups, and so many others like them, are vital. But they often struggle for consistent funding. They need sustained investment.
What about schools? They seem like such a crucial touch point for young people.
Absolutely pivotal. Schools need the resources, the funding, to properly identify and support vulnerable students.
Not just exclude them.
Exactly. Exclusion, as we said, can often make things worse if there's no proper support network. Schools need funding for pastoral care, for counselors, for early help programs. We need more inclusive approaches, maybe more trauma-informed approaches within schools. Creating safe, supportive school environments is fundamental prevention.
For people listening now, maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed or helpless about this issue in their own area, what can ordinary people actually do? Is there anything?
Yes, definitely. It might feel like a huge problem, but individuals can make a difference. Supporting local youth charities or initiatives, volunteering time, donating if you can, that directly helps.
Right.
Mentoring a young person can be incredibly rewarding and impactful. Just being aware, being vigilant in your community, reporting concerns about suspicious activity to the police